All right, guys, welcome to My Deck Tech. I'm Todd Anderson, and I'm going to be playing a Mono Blue Devotion today. So, do we want to go over the long history of Mono Blue Devotion before we get started, or do we want to just get into it?
I would rather not bore everyone.
Okay, well, long story short, Mono Blue Devotion was really good about a year ago, maybe a little less.
So, like Zergo.
Yeah, like Zergo.
Yeah.
That's fair. He wasn't that good.
I mean, in the storyline, he was
In the storyline, he was awesome. But anyway, Mono Blue Devotion was just this weird, aggressive deck that kind of just built a big board presence, but it just had these like cards that were pretty hard to kill or just like super powerful if you didn't kill them. Thassa, you were able to easily turn on thanks to like double blue 2-drops from Return to Ravnica, and we don't really have those anymore, so it's a little harder to turn on. But let's go and take a look at the deck, and we'll kind of compare it to the older version and see where we're lacking, because it's a few places, quite a few places.
And real quick, the reason that we're exhuming this deck, though, is because of one card, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, but it's a good card.
Yeah, I think it's a great card, actually.
Yeah.
So we'll just start with the new thing that's making me want to play this deck is Shore Crash Elemental, and you can kind of tell when Wizards wants a deck to come back, I guess. When for the last like 2 sets or even 3 sets, they've kind of toned down the devotion a little bit by making things only be like, you know, like Hornet Nest, for example. They talked about how it used to be green, green 1. And they made it green and 2 so that it just made it was worse in devotion. Yeah. And they kind of did that with a lot of like the blue 2-drops. They either made them really, really bad, like was it Mind Reaver, the 2/1 that whenever it gets targeted you mill 3, and then you can sacrifice it to counter the yeah, really bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So we're not playing any of that garbage. But Shore Crash Elemental is basically
Can we just talk about the design flaw of that card in the whole heroic theme? It's like, build a heroic guy, you got heroic, you get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, more strong, then you just have to sacrifice yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about that.
That's all I had.
Okay. I don't really want to talk about that.
Yeah.
So Shore Crasher Elemental is basically Frostburn Weird, but everyone's calling it Frostburn Weird 2.0, but we're not in 2.0 anymore. That was back in 1999. Now we're just...
Can we just call it Little Morphling?
We could.
I mean, it's pretty much just Little Morphling, right?
Little Morphling.
He protects himself.
Yeah, he can blink himself. He can pump. Okay. No, I like that a lot better. Little Morphling. He has Megamorph for 5, so whenever you blink him out, you can reflip him up for 5. It's a little expensive, but the fact that he can protect himself from removal spell is pretty good anyway. The fact that he can also attack for 5 or block for 6 is pretty strong.
Well, he can block
too.
for infinite.
Well, sure, he can block for yeah. But Shore Crasher Elemental is one of the reasons why we're trying to bring this back, just because it's a triple blue devotion. Now, when Night Veil Spectre was in Standard, it was in Standard for a while, and no one thought it was any good. And that's mostly because it didn't really have a place. And when Devotion came out, people were like, you know, holy crap, triple blue, that's insane. And even though the card wasn't like great on paper, because there had been a lot of similar cards to that where if they went unblocked, they did some really big effect. You know, it was not something people really paid attention to, but now that we know Devotion is really powerful, this guy, I think, just has a giant spotlight on him, and now we're just going to see if it's any good. The other additions to the deck, the new cards, we have Gudul Lurker, which is pretty sweet 1-drop. It can be a 2/2 unblockable later in the game, but for the most part, we're just going to be casting on turn 1, getting some beatdowns on. Stratus Dancer, pretty similar. It's a 2-mana, 2/1 flyer, but the later the game goes, the better it can be against like a control deck, or we can morph it down and then megamorph it to counter like a Wrath of God or a Planeswalker or something like that. Frostwalker, I'm not sold on, but I think he's one of the bigger bodies for 2 mana, even though he is fragile. But there aren't a lot of just random abilities that can target him with that, like basically free roll kill him. He's almost always going to trade for a removal spell or a creature. But when he doesn't do that, he's going to be crashing in for 4 damage for 2 mana, and it's pretty huge.
Can I talk about one small interaction with this deck that we're on Stratus Dancer? Stratus Dancer. I love that both of these creatures have morph, that when you hit 5 mana, you can just morph one of these to bluff this against a deck that you want them to like now start sandbagging their like spell, even though they're going to be able to cast it anyway. Yeah. I just love that you have that option where even if you don't have access to this, if you just play a morph with 2 mana up and
same is true for Gudul.
Oh yeah, wow,
so,
yeah, a ton,
this deck actually has what 12 creatures that can morph in it. So I guess if our opponent has protection from blue cards, we got some defense against that. Yeah. No, but I do love the ability of on 5 just playing Gudul Lurker like face down, and then your opponent's like, oh man, I don't really want to tap out for this Ugin because if I do, it's going to get countered. So, they have to kill it first, and if they kill that, then that means they're not killing, like, your other guys that are in play either. So, but the one of the coolest cards out of the new set is Evan Irwin's Spoiler in Icefall Regent. And what'd you call him?
Dungeon Dragon.
Dungeon Dragon. So if you haven't been playing Magic that long, there was a card back from the Innistrad block called Dungeon Geist that had the same come to play, tap a guy, didn't untap ability. But Icefall Regent's a little bit bigger and has an ability, I guess you could call it the Frost Titan ability.
I mean, so it's the Ice Dungeon Titan Dragon.
Ice Dungeon Titan Dragon.
Yeah.
All right. Last new card, Silumgar Scorn, basically 2-mana 4 spike, but since we have 4 Icefall Regents, I thought maybe it was worth trying out to see if, like, a 2-mana hard counter sometimes.
Plus, who casts Ugin with 9 mana?
Yeah, no one waits.
Let's just be honest.
No one waits. No one's going to play around it. 2 Bident of Thassa and a Hall of Triumph. The Bidents are going to be great for our early unblockable guys with Hypnotic Siren, Gudul Lurker, Stratus Dancer, and then even Thassa to make our guys unblockable.
Plus, when you can just are able to, activate its ability or activate Thassa's ability to make this unblockable.
Oh yeah, I thought about that. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I can't wait till you do it.
I can't wait until I do it.
Sideboard?
All right. Transition. All right, so the sideboard is very counterspell heavy. I think we can look back at our old versions of Mono Blue and see that we are pretty weak against control decks. And so I really just wanted to have a bunch of things that could hammer them, like Disdainful Stroke, Negate. Even Prognostic Sphinx I think is pretty good against them. You're going to have a really weird game plan against them where you're going to want to stick one threat and then just try to counter what they do for the rest of the game. And every time they kill your guy, you just replace it with like one guy and then just keep holding up counter magic. I think that Stratus Walker goes a long way in doing that. I think Frost Walker is also really good against them. Stratus Dancer, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't mean to mix those two up. We have 3 Encased in Ice for the really aggressive red and green decks. This card actually seems pretty good against Mana Accelerators from our opponent as well. So 2-mana way to tap down their Elvish Mystic or Voyaging Satyr or whatever, just to slow them down mostly. 2 Reality Shifts. This actually is in preparation for the mirror match. And I know that sounds awkward, but if one of us is playing a Master Waves deck and has Reality Shift and the other one doesn't, I feel like this card is just a giant blowout. And, the fact that you can also just sometimes, make one of your early guys into a 2/2 if they try to kill it, and sometimes you hit one of your 12 morph cards, and then it can be good later in the game. So I'm not sure this card is good yet. I think it's going to have some applications very similar to Rapid Hybridization or Pongify or whatever, and then one more Hall of Triumph so that we have more ways to keep all of our tokens alive for Master of Waves when he's going to die a horrible, horrible death.
Yes.
So, all right, guys. Well, that is Mono Blue Devotion, and hopefully Shore Crasher Elemental is really good.
Or you just rip a lot of...
Or just draw a lot of Master Waves, and we'll just be like, oh, that's why this deck always beat Mono Red. It wasn't because it Frostburn weird. That's weird.
It was for many things.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll be right back.